is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call
I should probably be doing all the late assignments I have to do, but this topic has been going around my head for a little bit, and I decided I should make a video on it. I know what you thought when you first saw the title of this video. You probably said, okay, what the fuck? But hey, guys, let's calm down. Furries are around us everywhere. Mickey Mouse, Chuck E. Cheese, New York crackhead Elmo. Furries are arguably the most hated community on the internet besides women and other minority groups. Since their documented beginnings in the 1990s, furries have been experiencing hate online and even in person by anybody who isn't a furry. I mean, even my sister disapproved. The thing is, if you ask someone why they don't like furries, most of the time they're just gonna say that it's weird. And I'm here to remind you that weird is just a social construct. What makes something weird is just that it isn't accepted by society. So if you have tattoos, dyed hair, or piercings, you can't really be hating on furries because at one point those things were considered weird and unusual too. The most ironic thing that I see is when people in the LGBT+ community are bashing furries. Your entire existence was considered unusual. It's a little bit hypocritical to talk bad about them. The other day I was recommended a video titled Furry Cringe Compilation, the same ones that you would see for feminists. And I just wanted to say, furry hate is just old already. It's like something from 2017. Like, just keep up with the trends, guys. You didn't know that being a furry is so in right now. And I know what you're thinking. You were thinking about furries fucking each other. I think the biggest misconception is that furries are always constantly fucking in those suits. And although obviously there are certain people who do that, not every furry is having sex. So yeah, of course there's going to be people who fetishize that, and I honestly don't even think that's a problem, especially when you look at some of those other kinks that some people are into. Oh, and the saddest thing is that furries are sometimes confused with people who fuck animals. First of all, that's gross, and if furries were into that, I would not be making this video defending them. The word that people use to describe themselves as someone who fucks animals is zoophile, the word that's dangerously close to pedophile, that it makes me wonder how they didn't stop to think that maybe fucking animals isn't the hobby they want to be doing. Going back to the original topic, furries have done nothing wrong as a whole. Honestly, the total opposite can be said. They're very accepting in general, especially because they know what it's like to be an outcast of society. That's one reason why the furry community consists of so many minorities, specifically people from the LGBTQ+ community. So not only does that community provide a safe space for gay people, but it also provides a safe space for people who are neurodivergent. People that are autistic and neurodivergent people in general use their fursona to confront public situations in a more controlled environment. So much so that 11.7% of furries have been professionally diagnosed with autism, at least according to Fur Science, and this is a much higher number in proportion to the general population. Think about it. When someone goes out in a suit, they could be anonymous. They could literally be someone that they normally aren't, and as unhealthy as that sounds, it's actually incredibly helpful, especially for those people who don't want to go out and socialize in a way that somebody normally would have to. So I thought, in order to know what furries are like, I have to speak to a furry. I honestly thought finding a furry that was willing to be interviewed was going to be much harder than it actually turned out to be. But I went on Twitter and I looked for someone who was willing to be part of it. And the first person I DM'd, which is Tiana, responded, and we worked some things out, you know, what day and what time worked for both of us. And we had an interview. Honestly, I was pretty nervous. I typically am a very antisocial person and I don't really like doing this. So this was kind of out of my comfort zone. And I think it came out good. Tiana was great, so props to her. So yeah, this is the interview. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm great.
You can call me T or Tiana, doesn't really matter.
All right. My first question, what was your name? But we already got that out of the way.
Yeah.
The main question, I guess, is what brought you into the furry community?
Ever since I was younger, like I always had an interest for like cartoons and like animals and like I was kind of a horse girl when I was younger, so like I go horseback riding every weekend and like I'd always be learning about like, different species and like all these different things. Like I was just obsessed with animals. And that's all I would draw. Like I was a really creative, like artistic kid when I was growing up. And I guess it's really just like a mix of different factors. Like I also grew up on the internet, so I think I was exposed to furries around maybe like 10 or 11. And funny enough, I actually used to make fun of them. Like I used to watch like the silly little like cringe videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, like furries are so weird. But it really grew on me after a while. I'm like, oh, like, I feel like these people are just really like creative, and it kind of dawned on me that I might have a lot more in common with them than I thought. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
What do you do as part of the furry community?
So basically, I'm just, I guess you consider it an artist. I do it more part-time because I am a college student. So I'm in college and then I have like a part-time job, but I really just do art on the side. And then I'm trying to do like silly, like TikTok stuff and like videos down the line. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Nothing too crazy.
Question, do you personally dress up as a furry?
So I will be getting a like professionally made suit pretty soon, actually at the end of this month. As a kid, I used to try to make my own, and they're not very pretty. So yeah, I do. I actually have a friend group, and they do a lot of like outings wherever it's allowed. We don't just show up
Yeah.
as just a group of furries anywhere. But yeah, we do like outings every now and then. Like sometimes they'll go to Dave and Buster's and just have a good time. And yeah, it's really just wherever we find it appropriate. Like we don't just show up anywhere with
Right.
tails and ears and paws and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of those cringe videos where like they get a lot of like awkward videos, but I feel like
Mhm.
they're really just cherry picking. Like you could find awkward videos of everyone on the internet, so it's just
Oh
like
yeah.
over exaggeration.
I really think it's almost like cosplay. Like it's almost exactly the same thing. You're just dressing up, and some people could find it weird, but it's really for like the same purpose. It's
Right.
pretty interesting when you really look at it.
Oh, do you have a fursona and what is it if you do?
I do, yes. She's actually in my Twitter profile picture, but her name is Zabe, and she's a hybrid species. But yeah, she's just a saber-toothed cat.
I feel like most of the time, like we as like outsiders, we just see a lot of furries being like wolves and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but like we don't really see as many different species. Well, I don't know
Yeah.
if that's like how you would term it.
No,
Like,
I totally agree. Yeah, like the most popular species are like foxes and like wolves
yeah,
and stuff. But it's really cool because there's people who have like really unique suits. Like I've seen moths, bugs, I've seen different like antelope and like bears and stuff. It's really cool because, people just come up with these ideas, and it's like mind blowing because I was like, I never would have thought of that, but it's like
yeah.
also super cool.
You ever experience any hate from being a furry?
Um, yeah, I have. I mean, I can't really blame them because, when people think of furries, like there's a lot of negative like ties to that. And there's people out there who do not want to associate with the term furry at all,
Right.
even though, they draw furries, they dress up as furries, but it's because of that label. Like it just comes with a lot of like negative stuff and a lot of different like assumptions about
Right.
people. So yeah, I mean, it happens, I guess.
Yeah.
The furry community is really just like this big melting pot of like people who have different backgrounds, different interests, like um it's really cool, but we do have like lines on where what is acceptable and what isn't
Right.
acceptable for sure.
And I think that kind of leads to my next question, which I saw in your bio you have something that says anti-zoo. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, okay. So, you know, like I was mentioning, like the stereotypes earlier, a lot of people think that furries equal what is considered a zoophile, which is people who have interests in like animals and like
Yeah.
having relations with animals. And that was kind of one thing that I wish I could just hold up on a huge sign, like being a
Right.
furry does not mean you're a zoophile. Like it's actually something that's really shunned like in the furry community. Like if someone's outed as a zoophile, like it's bad. Like no one, no one wants to associate with that person. And it's crazy because, so many furries are like against that, but not everyone, on the outside of the community
Right.
understands that.
Thing.
It's just something that the community as a whole does not stand for.
Also, all the research I've been doing, a lot of times people just associate it with like bestiality and all
Oh,
these
yeah.
very
Mhm.
nasty things. And
Mhm.
even like when I speak to people about this topic, they're always like, no, like they're interested in that type of stuff. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't really think so.
I think once you really talk to someone and kind of make connections, like, cosplay and like dressing up as animals, like, it's almost the same thing. Like it's
Yeah.
really just people, dressing up as something that's not themselves and just having a good time. Like
Oh, this is something that I actually found online because I was very interested in what people online thought. And one of the questions I found was, do furries want to be animals? Like,
those who do believe that they are spiritually like tied to being an animal or having like the thoughts of an animal, those are considered therians. And that's like a totally different community of people. And there are therians who are also furries, but that's not everybody. Like not everyone dresses up as an animal and think that's what they are.
yeah.
There's a lot of furries who don't believe they're Therians at all. But I'm not going to speak for everyone as a whole. There are Therians who are also furries, but not everyone is.
Something that is also very a very big misconception is that whether being a furry is a kink or like a fetish.
Mm.
And I was wondering what your take on that is.
Um, I mean, I'm not going to deny that's the, the thing for some people. Um, you know, there is kind of a sexual aspect to the furry community, but it's only like a fraction of people. Not everyone really associates with that, and that's like kind of I would guess you could say kind of a subculture of the furry community. But you know, it's really just like as long as it's between two consenting adults and, you know, all things good, as
Yeah,
long as it doesn't involve people who don't want to be involved with
right.
that and, it doesn't harm anyone, then that's their business.
The recorder had a question, and it was if
Oh,
you were planning on continuing this long term.
um, I would say so, yes. It's definitely not like my main personality trait for sure. But um I guess you could say that I've kind of been aware of the community at least for almost a decade now. Like I was really young, like I knew what furries were and I'd make my own little characters and whatnot, but I wasn't really active into the community until probably about a year or two ago. And I've made a lot of amazing friends. Like it's really cool because I never really thought that I would have this many friends. Just actively being a part of the community has shown me like there's so many like amazing people out there, and I'm actually going to be attending like one of the biggest cons in the country in December,
Oh,
and that
really?
one's called, yeah, it's called Midwest Fur Fest, and it's in Illinois, and there's like thousands of attendees, thousands. And it's really like a big family reunion because all of your online friends are there, and you guys just party and like have a really good time and get to see people you haven't seen in a really long time. Being in this community has opened like so many doors for me. It's really weird. Like now I'm in an interview about being a
Yeah.
furry. Like I never would have thought that I would be in a position like this, but it's so cool because it's like I'm meeting all these people and I get to talk about like this interest that I have and like this hobby that I enjoy, and it's really, really awesome.
Is there anything you personally would want to say to the people watching this video?
I mean, after watching this video, I hope that they learned something for sure. Like I said, being a furry comes with like a lot of weird things, but in reality, like we're just people with an expensive hobby. Like it's very expensive. But yeah, I don't think furries are as bad as you might think. So
Right.
you should talk to one and you'll probably learn something that you'd never known before. Really enjoyed being able to share a little bit more about this. But yeah, thank you so much.
So, what do I need to do now? I spoke to a furry, and now the next step is to try to become one. So I think the first and obvious step is to create a fursona. I really have no clue what to do for this. I don't really know how you make a fursona. I guess it's just like making up a character. I think the best choice is to go with a wolf. I know that seems to be like the most basic thing, but I also feel like it's just the easiest. I'm gonna sketch out what I think my fursona should look like. And I created one. I named it Candy because I just felt like it had to be similar to my name. I drew him. It's not the best illustration, but it gets the point across for me, and now I need to become Candy. But how do I do this? Tiana gave me a great idea. She said that she used to make her own suits and her own, little DIY projects. So it's my turn to do this. I think this headband is my only choice. I can't find any other thing that could... I can't find anything that will fit my head, so this headband it is. I want this to be a reflection of the type of person that I am. So I need to do the ears, which is why I'm using the headband. And honestly, I don't really have much that could work for this project, so I am using tape. Okay, I think this is working, guys. Okay. I use lactate pills for the ears, but I don't know how to put this on. I'm scared that it's gonna break. Fuck, wait, why am I doing it like that? Oh wait, this isn't gonna work. But what if I make my fursona a superhero? That's a good idea, I think. I think it's time to show you the results of my fursona. What am I doing?
Baby, I've been thinking about you lately. Does it ever drive you crazy? Just how fast?
Then something just snapped. Something inside of me. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about being better than Kakarot. I didn't care about being a Super Saiyan. I didn't care if I lived. I didn't care about anything.
The hose go up.
Only when I lie in bed on my own, and I wake up and I don't see your name on my phone. It's the moments when
Well, that was a lot. I personally learned a few things while making this video, and I hope that the same applies for you guys. And of course, I don't expect you guys to start dressing up as furries, but I hope that when you see a furry, you don't immediately think that they're fucking. Just learn to be accepting, guys. Just because it's something that you don't understand, it doesn't mean that it's harmful. That mindset has been setting us back years in every aspect and on every group that it could be applied to. Learn to have an open mind and accept that people are different. People are interested in different things, and maybe it doesn't suit you, but it might be somebody else's interest, and that should be completely fine. Plus, I know some of you are just gonna ignore everything me and Tiana said in this video, but it's fine. But it's actually not, so fuck you. I'm joking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was really fun to make. I did things that I would never do, and I know that this was a pretty long video of mine. I've never done a video like this that was in a podcast before, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys want to see more like this, then just make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video. Thank you. How do you end this?